It's time for 41 is the Mic, a weekly Chiefs podcast with Nick Jacobs of KSHB 41 and Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest. 41 is the Mic starts now.
The preseason is over. The Chiefs are winless. It means absolutely nothing. But we're going to hear to talk about what it could mean and what it tells us going forward. I am Matt Derrick from Chiefs Digest, alongside deep ball enthusiast Nick Jacobs, KSHB 41. Nick, the preseason's over. Chiefs are 0-3. Doesn't matter.
In my heart, it makes me sad. In my head, I don't care. Look, yes, they had a good pass. Could have used. There's a little room for improvement on both ends to make that into a walk-in touchdown. But Mahomes has been trying to routinely push the ball downfield in camp and OTAs, and got the opportunity to do so in a game, and had enough time in a game to be able to do it. So you just build off that. That's all you do, Matt. You just keep building. You're like Bob the Builder. You just keep stacking.
I did come up with one stat that made some people at Arrowhead happy yesterday in the elevator, pointing out that, yes, I mean, even though the Chiefs have lost 6 preseason games in a row, they still have won a Super Bowl since the last time they won a preseason game. So there are more important things than winning preseason games.
Well, and they also, win AFC Championship or go to AFC Championships, and
they won 2 of those since the last time that they won a preseason game. So
yeah, but if you watch how the Bears reacted after that final touchdown, you would have thought that they were on their way to Lombardi Trophy with the way they celebrated there at the end.
Well, that might factor in a little bit into our discussion about I wanted to start with you, Nick. The first team, Chiefs controlled the game when the first team was in there.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any of that, both sides of the football. Now, maybe we have to put an asterisk next to it because it is the Bears. I don't think the Bears are going to be a playoff team. And the Bears didn't play all of their starters. You probably saw Chiefs fan favorite Joe Thuney on the sidelines. Mm-hmm. He was just one of a handful. So there were some second teamers that were mixing in even with the Bears starters. But that said, the Chiefs offense has sizzled in the preseason, the number one offense.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Chiefs offense in terms of what they did on Friday night. Look, the way I like to call it is they went up against the Chicago Bears variety pack. So, I mean, there was a little of this, a little of that. Could be some ones, could be some twos. I know people are raising up the Chiefs offensive line like, baby Simba and the Lion King right now, that they had a good game. And I'm not saying that they didn't. They took advantage of the situation they were in, and they executed the way they were supposed to. So, I mean, there's little nuances here and there that they have room for improvement on, obviously, collectively as a unit. But they took advantage of the situation they were in, and they gave Mahomes the proper amount of time he needs in a pocket. The question is if they can do that on a regular basis, whenever teams are game planning for them specifically and game planning for their weaknesses, then that's whenever I'm going to get amped up about it. But, there were some times here and there where I'm like, yeah, that's not going to fly in the regular season. That's that'll cause some problems. But my favorite play of the entire thing was Trey Smith. Whenever Mahomes rolled out to his right for the Juju Smith-Schuster throw, and so Mahomes is back there. Trey helps Creed, and then he sees that this guy's getting an inside move on Juwan. So then Trey comes over, just lays himself out and launches himself into that end and takes him to the ground. Then he peels around and sees this guy chasing Mahomes. So as soon as Mahomes gets past him, Trey just leaps out there like a roadblock in front of him, or a speed bump, and takes him down. So Mahomes has so much more room for activities and can do whatever he wants, and is able to set up and go through his mechanics and do his taxes, check out the Cheesecake Factory menu, and then throw to Juju Smith-Schuster. All because on that single play, Trey helped make 3 different blocks for his teammates. Helped 3 different teammates on blocks. So, I mean, that's in itself, that play to me is a representation of why you paid Trey Smith what you did. Like, that dude is showing you, hey, you guys made the right investment in me. Now watch me go help 3 teammates on one play. So, like, I mean, that, and this is a preseason game, and he's given that level of effort. He didn't have to, but a dude takes pride in who he is and how he operates and how he works. And that's the mentality I was talking about last week with an offensive lineman, that you never want Mahomes to get touched. That was Trey making sure that Mahomes never got touched. So, like, I mean, you know, and look, I mean, Kingsley had a better game. I'm not going to knock Kingsley on that. The Chiefs leaned in more to him as a run blocker to build up that confidence, and then kind of mix it in with some pass blocking. And Kingsley showed some fire there, especially on that touchdown that Pacheco ran in there. The way he was celebrating, the way he was pumped up, he showed a little bit more fire, a little bit more passion. And we need to continue to see more of that on each and every play, because that's the mindset he's got to get into if he wants to be a dominant left guard in the NFL. So, and you saw Josh Simmons, he was celebrating with Juwan in between some plays from time to time whenever he'd have a good block, or the line would have a good block collectively. So last night was a good chemistry building. It'll be interesting to see in the weeks ahead when they go against the Chargers, the Eagles, especially the Giants. Giants is going to be a massive test in terms of pass rush. So with how long-winded I've been at this point, I know people wanted to hear about the O-line thoughts. So that's first and foremost right there, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, the O-line opened up everything. I mean, you know, a lot of focus on the deep ball to Tyquan, and that is absolutely going to be something that's there this season. But it all begins with having the protection up front. Mahomes had all day in the world to throw and to be able to have the time to make that play develop. And if you're going to take those shots downfield, that's where it all begins. So you got to have that. And again, you know, the Bears, I mean, you're also not going to see a lot of single high safeties. So Mahomes took advantage of the situation. He took advantage of the protection. All worked out. But I'll be honest. I mean, I know there's as much excitement about the deep ball as there was to Tyquan Thornton. I mean, you talk about that play that freed up the throw to Juju. Those were the kind of things that I saw that, to me, were almost probably more exciting, because to me, I mean, I'm more of a meat and potatoes kind of guy. And I've always talked about in the past, Nick, about how the Chiefs offense is usually at its best when Mahomes is eating his vegetables. And that just means taking advantage of what the defense is going to be giving you. And a lot of times that's a short and intermediate part of the field. Last year, Mahomes got turned into a game manager throwing the ball short because he didn't have time for anything to develop. Last night, though, there was plenty of time for finding things in the intermediate game. And there was also throws to Rashee Rice, which, you know, Rashee Rice is going to be able to just run some short routes this year. You can take advantage of the back shoulder throw to Rashee Rice. I mean, Rashee is, to me, what Tyreek Hill was at one point for this team. It's an 8-yard cheat code. If you need 8 yards at any particular moment in time, Rashee Rice can get it for you.
What I'll say about kind of the roles of the receivers, what I see him as for the most part, with Rashee Rice, what I see with him, he's kind of what Travis Kelce was for this offense. Like, he's taking over that mantle. He's taking over that role to where he's your go-to. He's the guy that moves the chains, and he's the one that has the explosiveness and shiftiness that Travis used to have. It's now Rice who's taking over that mantle for what the Chiefs offense is going to be in the primary go-to. Worthy is obviously going to clear a lot of things out. And Tyquan Thornton is going to be a sneakier part of that, to where he's going to be one of those individuals that can either fill in for, I personally think, Worthy, or fill in on some of the routes for Hollywood Brown, that also kind of help clear some things out, to where maybe Thornton, if he gets enough deep shots in the regular season, he's the guy who clears things out, to where Worthy can maybe beat on an intermediate or an underneath or something, and then Rice can work in the middle of the field or wherever they want to attack on that front. So I think it's just going to be a yin and yang between Worthy and Rice, and then Thornton, I think, is going to have a little bit more of a bigger role as time goes on, depending on Hollywood Brown's health. And then Royals and Juju Smith-Schuster are also, I think, going to be guys who work more in the short and intermediate game as well, that when all of them are collectively on the field together, it doesn't put as much pressure on Travis Kelce to have to be the go-to guy that Rice can kind of be that go-to guy, and maybe Robert Tonyan fills in some spots too for Travis Kelce, to where there's a lot more options. So if the O-line gives time, there's always going to be somebody that Mahomes can deal to when they're firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, and as much good as the offense was last night, and that's what I know a lot of people want to talk about, I was not quite equally impressed, but I was still very impressed with the Chiefs defense, especially the first 2 drives, 3 and out, 6 and out. I mean, they didn't give up much on those first 2 drives. Did give up a field goal on the 3rd possession. You started to see a few of the backups start to filter in. And also, I mean, the Chiefs were not playing without some of their, starters themselves. I mean, they didn't have Drew Tranquil out there. There's a handful of Omar Norman-Lott did not play. There's a few others here and there that, and on the 3rd drive, they did start, like I said, filtering in some of the backups. But what did you see from the Chiefs defense, Nick? Because I thought, especially the first couple of drives, were pretty impressive.
I mean, there were assignments signed collectively across the board. There wasn't a lot of opportunity for Caleb Williams to have receivers who could get space and get open for the most part. The Chiefs were sticking to them like glue in a lot of their coverage, so then that gave the pass rush time to get back there. Charles Omenihu and Chris Jones were effort level was up there, not just for the sack, but on a regular basis. Omenihu and Chris were making him routinely uncomfortable. Caleb Williams, that is, and then I mean DeAndre Swift had that one kind of hurdle, and that brought some momentum to the Bears and everything. If he doesn't have that hurdle, if he gets laid out, then the Bears drive stalls at that point. But I mean, that was kind of really the biggest thing overall in the entire thing. But selfishly, I want to see more from the Chiefs pass rush rotation overall. And I still don't know if there's enough there, because I felt like some of the guys were getting tired in the rushes. And I'm a little nervous about the rotation when they get to regular season and how that's going to work out. If they have enough guys that they can rotate in to really kind of take some of the snaps so everybody can stay fresh and stay relentless after the quarterbacks. But run defense was collectively better overall. The Bears didn't have as much. And like you said, you had some of the Bears offense in the variety pack as well. So it wasn't all just the ones. So there was some opportunities on that front.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned the fatigue, because there was also even a little bit of fatigue on the offensive side.
Yeah.
And let's be realistic. I mean, even though they're not playing full games, and this Chiefs team went and played in Pacific time zone against Arizona on a road trip, comes back to St. Joe, goes out to play at a 9:00 kickoff in Seattle, 2-hour time difference, another long road trip. Comes back, actually had a couple of good days of practice. Andy Reid mentioned on Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday was, not gonna lie, kind of a train wreck, Nick. I mean, it wasn't sharp. But I think that also plays into the fact that with the end of camp, and just as exhausting as that is, and wearing that out, those 2 essentially West Coast road trips wore this team out. They're going to get some time to break now. We'll see what happens. And then, of course, getting ready for Brazil. But this team's been through a lot over the last 3 weeks. And, the fact that that's one of the things that Andy Reid likes to also have. So I don't think he minds that at all, that this team has been tested over the last, through these 3 preseason games, because they need to be stressed out to just experience what they're going to during the season, because their season will be a stress.
Yeah, always is, always will be, as long as 15's a quarterback. Like, I mean, people are always going to be gunning for him. Bears are going to be celebrating going against 4-string guys that unfortunately are not going to be on the roster after Tuesday, as if they just won the Super Bowl because they get a Chiefs logo on the side of their helmet. So, yeah, there's always going to be something on that front. But, yeah, no, I mean, like, yeah, this Chiefs team could use a little bit of a rest. I'm not saying you don't prepare for the Chargers and anything like that, but whatever they can do physically to get right over this next upcoming week. Get their work in that they need to, but also be able, as Coach Reid would say, to get right and kind of heal up and get themselves to a point to where they're not having some huffing and puffing times when they have some of those longer drives on both sides of the ball. Then I think that'll be efficient for everybody.
Coming out of this game, Nick, who are some of your standouts, guys that either just had really good performances, or some players that, hey, maybe Chiefs fans don't know about but should be watching?
Well, I mean, one, people know because he kept making play after play, and he showed how dominant he could be. Ashton Gelati had a massive he had a 4-game stretch, and then he kind of, I think he had to throttle back a little bit. Because like I got it in my notes here just because I took some notes on that front, but the tackle, let me pull up Ashton's part, and then we'll go through some other things. Yeah, so Ashton shot the gap on that first play. The left guard missed his block on Ashton, and, I mean, he blew up that run play in the backfield immediately. Then that got him going to where he was held, and it was ignored by the ref, but then the ref called him for the late hit, and part of it is because he felt like Gelati laid on top of him, but Gelati actually had his knees down a little bit to where he wouldn't put all his weight on him. But from that angle, they tossed the flag anyway. So then after that, he throttled back and tried not to play as intensely. But then he blew up the left tackle and the tight end the very next play. And then he backed off the quarterback. He could have blown him up on the 4th play. And these are 4 plays in a row. And he could have blown up the quarterback on the very next play after that. He throttled back because he didn't want to get, thrown another flag on him in that series. Because he walked that left tackle back into the quarterback's lap. And he had a clear shot at that quarterback. He took that tackle wide, and if he wanted to, he just had to rip and boom, throw a shoulder into that quarterback's sternum and things, and the quarterback would have been having a bad time, and there never would have been a comeback because he would have been out for that game. But I felt like the pass rush got tired after that Gelati thing, and Fulton was tired because when he gets, I now know from watching that, when he gets a little tired, he gets a little grabby at times. But and then he had something with his visor and had to wipe it off, and then he was able to see again, and he had a better performance. Yeah. So I mean, that was kind of that gave people a glimpse of Ashton and what he can do. And what I mean by that is it allowed people to see that Ashton, once he makes a play, that's like throwing a full gas can onto a bonfire. A little miniature bonfire turns into a much bigger fire. Once he makes a play, he gets into a zone. And I saw that up at training camp, but getting to see it in a game situation, I'm like, there it is. That's what you're wanting. That's kind of, and if you can have a guy who does that down the road and they can develop that and foster that in Ashton Gelati, that's going to be huge for what this Chiefs pass rush could be. That's something that they desperately need on that starting defensive line long term. And if Ashton can translate that into against first team offenses like that, that could pay massively for the Chiefs down the road here, especially if they can get that going before playoff time. Kevin Knowles had a strong night. For people that don't know him, number 38, he's a cornerback, and he if I remember correctly, I think he blocked that kick.
Yep.
But then he also understood his assignment. So on one of the Bears' touchdown, on their second to last touchdown, he understood the pattern matching in their concept and kind of the potential zone, but also pattern matching aspect of it, to where once this defender came in, he had them. So this receiver comes in to his area. He's there. He knows it. But the cornerback that was originally on the guy that got pulled into it stuck with it. So then that tight end that ran the route in the flats underneath has the wide open walk-in touchdown. But Knowles was communicating with him. He's like, dude, go there. Him. I got this. You need to go there. And then for a guy to be a rookie and to already understand that in the preseason game number 3, like that's somebody you at minimum mark down for your practice squad. Because there's some guys, spoiler alert, I'm just going to tell you the truth. There's some guys that have been starters for the Chiefs secondary before that still don't understand pattern matching. And you can tell. So for Kevin Knowles to already kind of have that is something you mark down. And obviously you and I have talked about him plenty of times before, Cooper McDonald. Like, he just has such a knack. And if he had the second team or even the first team defensive line in front of him to keep him clean, like, that guy's a tackling machine. And so, like, there's such a bright future with him that I'm really intrigued to see what they can do with him. I don't think they're going to be able to get him on the practice squad just because of the nose he has for the football and the athletic ability he has and how well he can drop into coverage. For me, he was what I thought Brandon George was potentially going to be from watching George in OTAs, but Cooper just continually showed out and showcased that ability. So those are some kind of Gelati may not be an under the radar name, but Cooper and I think Kevin Knowles are. And I think those two guys are sneakily guys I'm excited about their development long term if the Chiefs are able to retain both of them in some capacity.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned Christian Fulton because I spoke to him after the game. That interview is over on the here on the Chiefs Digest YouTube channel, or go there if you're listening on your podcast. But spoke to him after the game since this was his first action, and yes, he readily admitted, yeah, he got tired, but they played him a lot to be able to knock off the rust of not having any action. His review of himself, Nick, was pretty close to what you just said. I mean, he liked some of what he did. He didn't like some of the other things that he did. So, he feels like there's some areas and things that he needs to work on and improve. But he needed that time last night to be able to get ready for week 1. I think it's awesome. And I think that's notable too, because not only does he still probably need a little time to ramp up, but the Chiefs they're still going to be figuring out what their best rotation is and at that corner spot. So I wouldn't be surprised, even in Brazil, if you're seeing some rotation, that you're not seeing Jalen Watson or Fulton or Najee Johnson, if he's healthy, out there full time. I think you're going to see some rotation behind Trent McDuffie as they just figure out who's their best rotation, who's their best lineup, what they've got, and especially allow Christian Fulton to continue to get ramped up. I also spoke to Cooper McDonald, so there's another plug to stay on your Chiefs Digest channel, and you can hear from Cooper. But I've with me, Nick, I've been on him for a while now, so I think you're right. They're not going to be able to sneak him onto the practice squad. So I think if they want to keep him, he's got to be on the 53. Yeah. On the offensive side, I know Jimmy Holiday became a big fan of a big target of Chiefs fans last night. They love Jimmy Holiday now. Don't think there's any room for him on the 53, but practice squad for sure, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, he had the big catch, and then he had the huge tackle on special teams there, and like he's always been a high energy, high effort guy that is worthy of being developed on the practice squad. And then right. I will say the one negative on offense because of the notes I took. I apologize that I didn't do this sooner. What I will say is for Gardner Minshew and Chris Oladokun, I want to talk about them real quick. With Minshew, I think he's still trying to kind of learn the playbook and get that down because the play clock was routinely going down to 2 to 3 seconds before they'd snap the ball, and they were getting pretty close to some delayed games I was getting a little nervous about. He's not comfortable in all his reads yet of the play, and I think that it seemed like it took him at least 4 to 5 seconds on a regular basis to read, do what he's going to do, decipher, and make his throw. And him and Remigio had a couple good connections there and everything that really kind of helped him out to lean on, because Sky Moore used to be the guy he went to in the past, and so now Remigio is kind of that guy. But I think hope it doesn't happen, but if Minshew does have to play in a regular season, the Chiefs on the offensive line is going to have to be a lot like they were in that Bears game for Minshew, especially early on, because I think it's going to take him a while to really get comfortable in this offense and to have the confidence level. Because you look at like Chris Oladokun, the velocity he has on the football is better than Minshew in my opinion, and he just has a better feel for the offense because he's been in it long enough. So like that's one of those other parts of it to where you're hoping Chris can make it to the practice squad and can be a part of that run and everything. Just there's a lot of promise to Chris's game because of how long he's been here, what he can do athletically. But there are times where he can't throw the fastball like he wanted to. Because, like, for example, you take in the first team offense there with Brashard Smith and Patrick. The first one that Brashard dropped, part of why I think he dropped it is because of the finger injury that he had. And I think it looked like he was trying to catch it in a way to where he wasn't trying to aggravate that finger because of how hard Mahomes threw that fastball in there. But then Mahomes learned from that, and then the next time he threw to Smith, he's like, I'm going to take a little bit off this one. And he did, and Smith caught it perfectly and caught it in stride. So that was kind of that give and take of Mahomes and him, Mahomes adjusting accordingly to the receiver. And so that was another one of those things where, like, Mahomes has learned over time when you got to throw the fastball and when you got to kind of put some touch onto it. And then, like you talked about earlier, when Mahomes threw that to Rice, I thought That is an encouraging sign because Brownlee was the only guy he was really tossing that to during training camp, and then they've kind of throttled back Brownlee and everything. And Brownlee had his struggles last night working with other quarterbacks, so it'll be interesting. We got some potential roster situations here, Matt.
Yes, you do. And that's kind of my final thought for you is, 3 p.m. Tuesday, deadline put together this roster. What's left for Brett Veach to do? And are there any concerns that you would have if you were him putting this roster together?
They need another explosive running back. And what people need to understand about that when I say that, the only explosive running back you have is Brashard Smith. Now, people will argue Pacheco looks like he's back to Pacheco form. I'm not saying you're wrong about that, but Pacheco is more of a north-south straight line runner, and offensive line needs to create that hole so he has a one cut and go to get to his top end speed in a straight line. And people think whenever you run a straight line in a 40, that means you're fast all the time, but it's not, because you have to have this thing called lateral quickness and be able to maintain that when a defense stretches you out, that you can still keep the leverage and stay in front of them. Pacheco kind of has always struggled in that department. And that's not on him. That's just who he is physically. That's not necessarily something that you can improve by a ton. It's just you either kind of have it or you don't. And there's a lot of running backs in the league that don't have that. And they're typically not in those schemes that require that. So I think they still need to find another running back, because if Brashard Smith were to get hurt, they don't have another explosive running back. So you've got to kind of, with the way the Chiefs dealt with injuries last year, anything you can do to have depth at every spot you need. Like with Thornton's going to be a backup for Worthy's speed. So if Worthy were gone, Thornton takes over that speed dynamic for the Chiefs, and there isn't fall off with what they do play calling wise. Cole Hardman had to do that part of the time over the years for Tyreek or for Worthy. So and then Robert Tonyan can help with Kelsey in some aspects of it. And so there's just those things. So running back is the top one. I'm intrigued to see what they do at that 9th or 10th offensive lineman spot, what they do with Wanye Morris and Issa Pule. He doesn't have a pronunciation key yet, but if he gets one, I will listen to it 8 times in a row.
He needs one, yes.
Yeah. So that's the battle I'm intrigued by. They need another defensive tackle, a one tech that they can use, because selfishly I'd love to see Omar Norman Lott back at the 3. Now we'll see what type of run/pass rushing one tech they can find to pair with Mike Pennell, but I would prefer if Omar Norman Lott's not having to be in that role, but we'll see if that ends up transpiring. I think they're good at linebacker. If they can find another cornerback to kind of help out in some aspect of it, I think that would be good. And I would definitely keep tabs on safety over the next handful of weeks and see how they do in the first 3 weeks of the year, to see if there's anything that needs to be added at the safety position, or if you can just kind of coach through it. But wide receiver, I don't think you're going to need to do anything. Quarterback, tight end, you're not going to need to do a thing. So, and everything I'm talking about is purely depth pieces if there are injuries. This isn't anything that's a starter front.
Yeah, and with you as well, running back, defensive tackle, cornerback, those are 3 areas for sure that I think Brett Veach is going to be looking at, and might, if you're a Chiefs fan, be watching the New York Jets and what they do, because if old friend Derrick Nottie becomes available, just might be current friend old Derrick Nottie. So just one of the things to be looking at. The Chiefs will be scouring the waiver wire, but also these next few days, trades will be a distinct possibility, because when you're 31st on the waiver wire, you can't wait for those young guys. And a guy like Derrick Nottie, if he's cut, he would not be subject to waivers, so the Chiefs could just go get him as a free agent if he doesn't end up on the 53 with the Jets. So a lot of things can be happening over the next few days. Keep tabs on us, because we'll be talking about it all, Nick. And Tuesday will be a very busy day. So we'll have the Chiefs Q&A, maybe a different time just because of the day, everything going hectically. Right now I'm tentatively scheduling to maybe do it from 6 to 8 instead of 7 to 9. Just so we can cap up everything and kind of get a little bit of a head start on talking about the roster and how everything looks. And of course, next week, Nick, we'll be getting ready to talk about week 1 on 41 is the mic.
Yeah, and obviously I want to thank there are more people than I realize that listen to the show. that showed up to my grandma's visitation or funeral. And so thank you to every single one of those people that showed up for that or sent flowers or, reached out or anything. Thank you to every single one of those people. And obviously to Meadville Church there and the women that cooked the lunch that they did. And so thank you to everybody. And that's all I got for today, Matt.
Thoughts and prayers with your family, Nick. There's a lot of people out there who love you, man.
All right, let's get out of here.
Take care, everybody.
You've been listening to 41 is the Mic, presented by KSHP 41, your home of the Chiefs and Chiefs Digest.